what sort of turned the light on for you about those things, and what does that mean to you to if you will be an ally to Black people?
Whoa, what turned the light on? I grew up out here in California, and I didn't have a lot of contact with Black people. But then when I was 10, we moved to a corporate community called Greenwich, Connecticut.
Hmm.
Oh
It's
yes.
the first time I heard the word kike,
Mm.
and the first time I heard the N word. And one day I said the N word in front of my father, and he slapped me in the face. It's the only time he ever hit me. And he said to me, "Don't you ever, ever use that word again." Well, I adored my dad, and I knew he had a lot of integrity. So the fact that that was the time that he hit me made me really start thinking about why does, it's when I became aware of what racism was about. And then I got to know quite a few Black people, and they became my friends. In fact, speaking about, when you're a celebrity and have a platform, I remember 1970 when I was just beginning to become an activist. And I hated the fact that my celebrity separated me from the people that I was organizing, basically,
Mm.
in Detroit. And I was friends with Kenny Cockrell, who was the head of the League of Revolutionary Black Lawyers. And he had a huge influence on me. And I said, "Kenny, I think I'm going to quit Hollywood." And he said, "Fonda, the movement has enough organizers. We don't have movie stars. You
Hmm.
can't quit. You have to not only not quit, you have to start taking your career seriously,
Hmm.
because and start being very intentional about your work." And so that's when I became a producer. So he for quite a number of years, I was very involved with the Panthers and with a number of Black
You
organizations.
can't watch a documentary about the Black Panthers without seeing you in it. to be honest, I'm like, oh, there's Jane again. There's Jane again.
Um, it was interesting, but to tell you the honest truth,
Mm-hmm.
I have an adopted Black daughter whose parents were Black Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
It was in 2016 when Trump was elected that I realized that I didn't know near enough
Mm.
about the history of racism in this country, starting with the beginnings of slavery all the way through the whole journey. And so I've spent about 3 years, really like I was in school, reading everything I could get my hands on, including stuff about white privilege. And I think it's really important for white people to do that, because you realize all the different aspects of racism and how it's affected people of color. And I mean, I feel like I'm very much a work in progress, but I'm so grateful that I made that determination. I didn't go to my Black friends to say, "What should I do?" I just started studying.
Mm.
And most helpful to me was the studying I've done about the meaning of white privilege. And I understand why a lot of very, very poor white people who are having a very hard time of it say, "Wait a minute, what are you talking about? I don't have privilege." They don't understand how skin color has played a role. And so what I've realized is, you said this just now, Baron. There's the internal individual work, and then there's the external work. It's the difference between saying I'm not racist and I'm an anti-racist. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you want to be an anti-racist, it involves doing
Mm-hmm.
something, action. And one of the values for me of having studied and continuing to study the history of racism and all the different manifestations that racism has played in this country, is how important it is that we start, and I hope it happens soon, we start dealing with all of the policies that hold black people back. Um, why it is that it's almost impossible for black people to develop wealth,
Mm-hmm.
cross-generational wealth, which, like home ownership,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
where you live, all those kinds of things. There's so many policies that are part and parcel of this, what we call a democracy, that have to be gotten rid of. And I think, I think that once those things are done away with, and black people and all people of color begin slowly to be able to play on a somewhat leveling playing field, white people who are scared of that are not going to be scared anymore.
Mm.
I think, because when things begin to even out, it'll just become, oh, it's okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
really okay, And but I feel like my job is to talk to white people, and a lot of white people have been coming to me, and I think that's good. Um, and and having compassion for those white folks who just don't understand yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they, you know, you've got to be taught to hate and fear, right? It starts from the beginning, and it's scary for people who are afraid of things they don't know and that they're not familiar with. And I think that's up to us white people to do something about. And I am so frigging excited about what is happening in the streets right now. Open mic, you're so right. It's an unprecedented amount of diversity. Um, there are communities here in California with no black people
Mm-hmm.
living in it. And yet you see multi-generational white folks marching with Black Lives Matter signs. That's different.